welcome to the Bearhug Club, a pro wrestling podcast of positivity.
I see what you did there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bearhug Club podcast. As always, I'm your host, Name Redacted, and I'm joined by Name Redacted and Name Redacted. Hello, boys.
Hello.
If that intro confused you a little bit, that's because this week we're going to be talking about censorship in wrestling. But the kick started. Obviously, there was a pretty big pay-per-view at the weekend. You might have heard of it. It's called the Royal Rumble. So we're going to do a quick run-through about that. Just to kind of get the overall thoughts. I thought it was a pretty damn solid show, like one of the more solid Rumbles we've had in like the last couple of years. Wouldn't you agree?
I think match after match after match, it was pretty solid. No match really dragged. Everything was like decently paced. It was pretty solid. I think the one that dragged the most for me was probably Reigns Owens. But even that was absolutely serviceable and really good. And both the actual Rumble matches, which is why you're there, were fucking solid.
Yeah, Reigns and Owens did drag a bit, but I think that's because they just wanted to show The Undertaker we're not soft.
That's why you let him get hit by it. That's why he got hit by a golf buggy.
But that botch with the handcuffs.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that.
Was so painful.
Yeah,
it was painful to watch, but we'll get to that when it comes to it. So we'll just kind of go through beat by beat. So obviously, I missed the pre-show, but it's kicked off with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax defeating Charlotte Flair and Asuka for the women's tag team title match, which got my evening off to a pretty poor start because Asuka's in my fantasy draft, and because it was 2 times multiplier, that means I lost 6 points because of this one. Anything you want to say on it, lads? Did any of you guys catch it?
Yeah, it was fine.
I didn't.
Like I caught it, so it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I much prefer the AEW pre-shows because it's just matches.
Yeah.
There really is not much point. If you're up to date on the product, there's no point in watching a WWE pre-show because it's everything you've seen, and then they're going to replay those packages during the pay-per-view anyway, whatever. The women's tag titles are something that they could really, do something with. And now they're doing the Women's Dusty Classic in NXT and on 205. Hopefully this leads to something. There are a lot of feuds going on within all of this. Shayna and Nia almost have a feud with each other that they're doing almost like a bar story where they're learning to work together. You got Charlotte and Rick and Lacey Evans coming into play. You got Asuka and Alexa Bliss, all of this kind of stuff. It was fine. It was all it needed to be. It was good that it was on the pre-show. Part of me was like, why is the best female wrestler supposedly in the world, Charlotte, on the pre-show, and also Asuka on the pre-show? But no, it was fine. It was good. It did a job, and like they traded over, continued some stories. It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't catch this. I very rarely watch pre-shows unless there's a match on there that I really want to see, like when they used to have all the cruiserweight title matches on the pre-shows, which
Now
especially when Buddy Murphy was champion. No. But yeah, in terms of our points, I sort of didn't really feel the sting of this. I do have Charlotte, but I also have Nia Jax.
Yeah, so you just kind of Oh, well, you would have gained at least like a good
Stay
few
at
extra
level.
points for her winning. Yeah. No, like I said, I was
2
like,
points.
I was busy watching RuPaul with some people before this came on, so we literally finished that and jumped straight into it, so we just missed it. But I was pretty off to a poor start. And then to add to my anxiety, the kickoff match on the actual show was, of course, Drew McIntyre against Goldberg. Another one I was incredibly worried about because, again, I've got Drew. He was going in as champion. It was very real that Goldberg could have pulled another stunt like he did last year and beaten Drew. Thankfully, he didn't. And honestly, it was a really good match. Like, I think that kind of helped add to the tension. Like, it was the perfect kind of Goldberg match that we're kind of used to seeing. Like, it's just big move, maybe a big spot like Drew going through the barricade. But at least with these matches, you've got some proper investment in it because I don't think anyone really wanted to see Goldberg win. So it was really nail-biting every pinfall that was featured in this match. And I think it was just kind of, I was a bit surprised when they'd kick off the show of this match, but I suppose it was kind of the perfect way to do so.
Yeah, I think when it's coming to Goldberg matches, you just don't know. I think it just depends on his mood. It's like, no, I'm going over. No, I'll put him over. I think it just depends on his mood. But I think definitely the right decision keeping the title on Drew. But like you said, like you could have seen any one of those pinfalls being the deciding pinfall.
I mean, that was the thing. When you got him up for the jackhammer, I was absolutely like fretting. I thought that was going to be it. So I was like, I had literally jumped out of my seat in absolute glory when he finally kicked out. So I thought, right, I don't think he's going to lose here.
Yeah, this was probably one of the matches on the card that really didn't benefit from the no crowd. Yeah, him kicking out the jackhammer probably would have been the best way to open the show with a live crowd. No matter how hard I try, it's so hard for me to hear the like canned crowd cheers and everything because I just can't help but hear the repetition and like the same person cheering in it. I am like sold on the Thunderdome thing though. There's definitely a delay. It's just like hits the jackhammer, and then everyone in the crowd is like eventually. But yeah, otherwise, really, really solid. Cementing Drew. I'm not really too sure what's next for him. I don't think no spoilers, men's winner is going to go after Drew. Really, but we'll see.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, go ahead, man.
I read something today that there's only 2 people in WWE history who've beaten Brock and Goldberg clean, and that's Drew and The Undertaker.
Oh, okay.
Which puts Drew in a very, very exclusive club. If that's true, I don't know whether it's true or not. I didn't research it because I am a hack.
Well, I guess Taker is going to have to come out of retirement one last time.
Taker Drew, WrestleMania 87.
I mean, there was a lot of speculation that Taker might actually be coming out of retirement for Mania, but I kind of hope he doesn't. I hope he does stay retired, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes from there. After that, it was Sasha Banks defeating Carmella to retain the SmackDown Women's title match. I wouldn't say there's a lot to talk about. It was a perfectly fine match. It wasn't anything that blew me away, but again, it was just like a nice little one to get out the way just before we could get into sort of the Rumble matches themselves. I think you had some sort of obviously some fun moments with Carmella's bodyguard. Is he called Reginald?
He's not a bodyguard. He's her sommelier.
Sommelier, okay. Excuse me for that.
Which is like a butler
wine
for
taster.
Wine. Yeah.
He's a professional wine taster.
I think Vince probably just went to like a rich billionaire's vineyard, and he was just like, "Oh, you have a sommelier? I want one of those." And that's it. That's the whole story. The same reason that what was the pay-per-view? Balls of Fire, Great Balls of Fire. It's probably just because somebody gave him a deal on the song Great Balls of Fire, so he was like, "Well, I guess I've got to I'm gonna shill that.
Got to use that somehow. Yeah, anything you want to say on this match at all?
Yeah, I enjoyed this match. I think it's just because I love Sasha Banks and Carmella. Since she's came back, I'm really enjoying Carmella's work. I think it's the best she's been since she was teaming with Ellsworth. Just in that, she's just so entertaining to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
you know, I think this match could have gone for another couple of minutes. Just had that little bit extra because I don't think anyone saw Sasha losing the title, especially with the run she's been on.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was it was going to be a pretty predictable outcome. I mean, again, like it's not like it was a bad match. It was pretty serviceable. I mean, realistically, this was probably the match I wasn't really that invested on throughout the whole card, so I wasn't really too fussed about it. But again, it was still pretty serviceable and enjoyable.
Yeah, Carmella's run now is very interesting. How bored they get of gimmicks is not a good sign.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still don't think it holds a candle to the sort of Mella is money run, which was just great. She was great with the Money in the Bank, but she won twice, I guess. One on the Sunday and then one on the Monday. But you know, time will tell.
Time will tell. I think it's still fairly early days for it, but yeah.
No one in WWE ever going to mention that the first winner of the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match was a man.
Oh yeah.
No, and especially not a man
like Ellsworth. Yeah. What was he thinking?
Yeah. Well, that's just WWE booking for you, and it can't just be something nice. It's got to be ruined by man. Mainly Vince McMahon.
Can't have nice things.
Yes, Vince won't let us have nice things. Like, why would he? After that, then I've included this. It was the Bad Bunny performance. Who the hell is this guy?
Okay.
Before we go into it, though, like, here's the thing. I've looked at comments and stuff, and a lot of people were saying the same thing. But then I found out, apparently we should kind of know this guy, because here's a few stats about him. He had 48 million listens on Spotify. He's got 29 million Instagram followers, 83 songs on the Billboard Hot Latin Song Chart. Way more than that, okay.
Like 8.5 billion listens on Spotify. He's the highest listened to artist in the world for 2020.
Oh no, so that was it. So it was 40 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and he's had 80 billion streams, which makes him the #1 ranked Spotify last year, I think.
Yeah.
He was definitely in the top 50.
I think because I didn't know him, but I also don't know any pop stars, even ones from the UK or from America.
Yeah.
So really, you could show me. My brain was like, oh, go on, throw out a name of a pop star that you don't know, which doesn't.
No,
I don't know them. I couldn't even tell you who's big right now anyway. But it is interesting sort of seeing a lot of the WWE crowd on socials, because everyone is saying like, who is this guy? Even a bunch of like fucking journalists are like going on about it. Like, who is this guy? It's just like, do your job.
Here's like kind of like, I guess, the thought process of a lot of WWE fans. So obviously it was announced before that Bad Bunny was going to be here. Like a Facebook group, a Facebook page I follow is Wrestle HQ, who do a lot of selling of merch and toys and stuff. And the guy who runs it put on a massive rant about like, who the hell is Bad Bunny? Why is he performing? Why is the video got this guy? And he ended that quote with saying, "Bring back Limp Bizkit."
Okay.
No.
I think it's probably gonna bring in more eyes than bringing in Rob Gronkowski did. I'm almost positive that that's the case. Especially, on the follow-up show, he basically was the hype man and teamed with the Priest practically, right?
Yeah.
Which is great for Damian Priest, bringing him in. I mean, the WWE crowd are absolutely fucking huge in like Latin America.
Mhm.
And more eyes on the product means all good. And also, he doesn't hit a bad crossbody, so it's fine. It was better than Snoop's fall off the top rope, so it's
Yeah,
cool.
you couldn't really call Snoops a splash. It was just more like a tumble.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
With this guy, the thing that got me was that his song's called Booker T. So fair enough, but
Oh, hold on.
Booker
Let
T
me.
was,
Can you just play the entire song, and I will just do exactly what Booker T did the whole time. Just.
Yeah.
like it's not even like Booker T was in the Rumble.
I think Gary's just going to sit there and take his time.
Yeah.
Just pause my video because I'm about to stand up.
I mean, I was hoping with that he was going to come in the Rumble as GI Bro, like he was dressed in the perfect attire for it. Like that surprise return was right there, and I thought he's in gear. He must be making some kind of appearance, and all it was just for him to say, "Can you dig that sucker?" at the end, and then have a bit of an altercation with the Miz and Morrison.
Yeah, it was nice of Miz and Morrison to sell for him.
Yeah,
being scary. There was a bit where he wrestled like fairly recently because he does like more indie shows. I think he owns a couple of promotions, maybe.
I know he owns at least one in Houston.
There was the bit where they scared off Miz and Morrison. Bad Bunny goes back into his locker room and then closes the door on Booker T, and then Booker T has to like reopen it, like just.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't know who Bad Bunny is. It's not my cup of tea, but you can honestly see why this was a huge get for WWE. Because at the end of the day, it's going to get hopefully a lot more eyes on the product, so you can't really blame them for that.
Yeah, and the way that your social medias are set up anyway is that you're not seeing comments in different languages. If you don't speak, any sort of, you don't speak Spanish or Portuguese or any of like the sort of those kind of languages, you're not going to see them most likely. And even if you did see them, you wouldn't even know if they're saying. They're probably not saying like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah.
They're probably saying like, "Oh, Bad Bunny, let's fucking go." It's 100% good for WWE. Is that good for everyone else? I don't know. Probably not. But whatever.
For sure.
But right now, I want to see a match: Bad Bunny versus El Torito.
WrestleMania confirmed. Moving past Bad Bunny, then it was the Women's Rumble match, which was won by Bianca Belair. Did one of you guys have Jace, she's on your roster, right? Oh,
no,
on your roster. Garrett, is she on your roster?
Should probably check if she is.
You need to add your points, dude.
No, I thought I did. The only B I have is Bailey.
Okay. Well, either way, she was kind of like one of those rumored to win people, and it's a new elevation, which was great. Again, this was another just a solidly booked Rumble. This is probably the best women's Royal Rumble match I've seen since they introduced like that was the thing now. It felt really solidly booked throughout. They had plenty of nice little surprises, and what I liked this time is they didn't rely too heavily on that, because obviously the issue they have with the women's roster, it's not as deep as the men's. So the last couple they've done, it was always like the same kind of legends return. At least this one, it felt more consistent of like more current stars and what they could grab from NXT as well, which was great for me because I've got a lot of NXT women on my roster and a lot of them featured in this match. So I need to go back and check what points I've actually got from that. And I just love the fact that when it got to the final two, it was great that we were either going to get Rio or Bianca, who were both well deserving of it. Obviously, I was trying to bank on Team Ripley because that would have got me some major points, but I couldn't really be mad at the fact that at least they gave the rub to Bianca.
Yeah, Bianca is one of them. I didn't think she was going to win it. I think she was. I don't think she's. I didn't think she was quite there yet. Mm-hmm. Definitely going to be a Royal Rumble winner, and she has the potential to go on and properly main event WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think like with the story they were telling with Bailey, they were going to pull the trigger yet. But so glad that she won. She is probably the best athlete
Oh yeah,
in the women's division between her and Naomi.
which they
And
kind of
possibly
showcased well in this match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have minded
gimmick
seeing that tag team.
Mm-hmm. No,
Her
that
gimmick
was
she is the EST. She is the superlative of the women's division, which is honestly pretty solid. I dig that as like a, because it's hard. It's not a gimmick. It's more of just like a. It's like how Becky Lynch isn't really. The man is more of a moniker and less of a gimmick, you know.
Yeah.
It's solid. Like I would have been happy with either winning. That were in the final two. I hope that Rhea somehow makes her way back into WrestleMania. I'd even just like love to see her take part in Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool. I mean, we don't know if this is an official call up, do we?
It was confirmed this was the call up, but it's still undetermined where she's going, whether it's going to be Raw, SmackDown. I mean, given Damian Priest showed up on Raw, maybe SmackDown, just to kind of spread that out a bit, but it still remains to be seen.
No, I want Ripley on Raw, and I want Ripley, Charlotte, WrestleMania, Raw Women's title.
Well, Charlotte can go to any brand. She's that Cena level now where she can just kind of.
Yeah. Just because I really want to see Bianca and Sasha at Mania.
That'd be amazing.
And I really want Ripley to get her momentum back from last year's WrestleMania.
I want that too, but Asuka's in my roster as the champ, and I don't want to lose more points.
Well, to be fair, I've got Charlotte, so I want it even more.
Yeah, but I'm already the champion, so no.
I think you'll find I'm the champion.
No.
I won that title.
Get your fat ass head out of the stream. I think Gary's going to get bored very quickly of that. But yeah, I think going back to it, it was a solidly booked Rumble. Had some great spots and moments. But what did we think about Naomi's little spot where she was just lying on the floor with her feet in the air? Was she out, or do you think you can claim that has not been eliminated?
Our feet didn't touch the floor.
But her whole body left the ring.
Yeah, but the rules are her feet.
I like to say that was the
ring, right? If I go to the ring wearing, those moon shoes that used to be advertised to you as a kid. If I go to the ring wearing moon shoes or little stilts, I'll just never be eliminated.
Yeah.
But you could say that about wearing shoes. Technically, it's your feet touching the floor.
That is very true. Just get some thick-ass platforms to really cement that.
Yeah,
some weird
new rocks.
Directed Rumble where you have to de-shoe everyone.
Tarantino directs the bra and panties match.
Oh.
No, less bra and panties. No, okay. Only toes. It's a toe and heel match.
Did you see the still that when Ripley and Bianca were both outside?
Oh,
Bianca's feet were on the floor.
Whatever.
Oh well.
I wonder if they'll bring that into a story.
If they do, that would be fucking ruining the character, I think. Especially because of the babyface promo she cut, which was awesome.
Yeah.
No, I mean Ripley goes to SmackDown and says, "You didn't win."
Nah, I don't think that's in Ripley's character. I think that's just brushed away.
That would only be worth it if they were going to turn Rhea back into a monster heel, and I don't think they're ready to quite do that because, like you say, she's still got some redemption to do over Charlotte. Whether they go with that, I mean, the thing is, I don't think you even need to give one of them the title for Mania, you could just have that match on its own, and it would still have the same impact of Rhea finally getting the redemption she needs.
Well, yeah, it's better if Charlotte doesn't have the title or she bloody retain.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, either way, this was a great little Rumble match, and
one more thing.
Yes,
Victoria's return.
Yeah.
Who saw that coming?
That was a surprise. That was a legit surprise. God, like, how long's it been since she was in WWE? That's what, since like 2006, maybe something around that time. It's been a while.
It was before Trish retired. So it's been a good old while.
Been a good old while. No, that was a lovely surprise. I mean, the Rumble match stuff just had lots of nice little moments. I thought Billie Kay was fucking hilarious at the start of it. Yeah. The little Iconics reunion was brilliant. Jillian Hall was even a nice surprise, like very fun, random, obscure throwback. But yeah, it was just brilliant overall. Following that, it was, of course, Roman Reigns defeating Kevin Owens in the last man standing match for the Universal title. I think I agree the match went on probably a little bit too long, but it didn't necessarily feel that way just because it was essentially just a huge spot fest. And I like that they finally kind of just broke the fourth wall and went all around the Thunderdome with this one. So they went right onto the LED screens. They went back into that very sort of surreal backstage area they've got set up now that just appears to be rings everywhere.
Yeah, they went back to the practice ring.
Yeah.
Which was all right, sure.
Yeah, there's the practice ring, but then if you look, there was another one a bit further down. So part of me's got thinking there's just going to be one like dotted around all the different points of the arena. Roman Reigns tried to. Sorry, go ahead.
I think they're going to try and do a new kind of war games where it's 3 rings but it's Hell in a Cell. You can get out of the ring. That's why they've got all them rings.
We're gonna
the whole arena is going to be war games.
We're going to leave one cage and go into another cage and then go into another cage.
They should
We're going to go into a cage within a cage within a cage.
You know, an entire roster match, just one person burying everyone else.
Triple H.
Fuck it.
It was also good in this match to see Roman Reigns living up to his family's bloodline by running someone down. So it was pointed out to me as well, Stone Cold. Kevin Owens has not only inherited the Stone Cold Stunner, he's also inherited just getting hit by cars as well. Fair play to him, because it looked fucking gnarly. Like, he went full on through the windshield, hit Roman, and then just barreled out. But what didn't make total sense afterwards is then Owens was the one in control of the match. Like at least sell it a little bit, man.
But it's a.
No, I mean, getting hit by a Superman punch does. Yeah.
Because Roman's strong.
Big dog strong, man. And yeah, it kind of just kept building. I mean, like we were saying before, it was a shame it was ruined by the handcuff spot at the end. It was just really awkward of the referee getting to 6 and then go in.
Well, because Roman literally had to stand while he was down there. So
yeah,
I looked at the way he was.
Like, he could have stood.
I looked at them cuffs. He could definitely have stood up.
Yeah, but he had to in the end because Heyman couldn't get it open. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they'd give.
Apparently, it was literally because the handcuff was put on the wrong way, so the hole was facing the wrong way. I think it was. So it was just really awkward to actually see and get to. Yeah. Apparently that was it.
The old excuse of the hole being in the wrong place. So you set me up perfectly for that.
Go sit in the corner.
I am in the corner.
Good, stay there. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? It was just fun. It was like one of the more sort of physical last man standing matches I can remember seeing for a long time. It kind of lived up, I guess, to the namesake of it, whereas like the last couple I can remember weren't as like what you would expect from them, but I think it was still pretty decent. And then obviously we ended with the Edge winning the men's Rumble match. What do you guys think? Did you see Edge winning? Was this a surprise, or were you kind of thinking this is what they might go with?
It was a surprise. It's not an unwelcome one, honestly. I mean, if you look at his average match time
Mhm.
when he's wrestled, it's like on average he's now wrestling 35 to 40 minutes. You know, he's not showing up and doing 10-second matches.
Nope.
He's putting on decent stories. He's not burying anyone in the Rumble either. No, like I'm completely fine with it. I hope they tell a good story going forward. He's appearing on NXT tonight.
Yes, so could be going with Jace's hope of a dream match.
What the
Edge Balor.
Could be cool.
Edge Balor.
I have a feeling this week is going to be. He's just going to show up and he's every champion. I think it's going to be him versus Reigns.
Yeah,
because they love like your move is like my move, so it will be a spear versus spear at Mania. And if it's not Edge, it's probably Goldberg against Reigns at Mania.
They're going to go with spear versus spear for something.
I see that happening. I see a story like Reigns just doesn't want to see Edge at all for some reason, calls him lazy because he didn't come back or something like that. The way that I would book it is now that you have Christian back as well, you sort of have him come in. Hopefully, both of the Usos are back and healthy in time, and then you just have they can retroactively do that. He can be like, nah, I need my tribe, make a deal. And what you do is you just have Edge and Christian versus the Usos at Chamber or something. You have Reigns hurt Christian along the way. You know, easy as you just get to Mania, and that would be the way I would go. I don't think him versus Drew is that compelling. I don't think there's a story there. And WWE don't entirely like to do babyface versus babyface, and I don't think they want to turn Drew, and they probably don't want to turn Edge either. Could be Balor, but Balor's doing a story with Undisputed Era.
And then Karrion Kross he's getting involved. So I think we'll eventually see Edge and Balor, because I think Balor's been at the top of Edge's list of like wrestlers he really rates for a while now. So I think he does want that. But I think Garrett's right. He's literally just going to be there so we can get a bit of a tease, because obviously last year kind of showed that if you win the Rumble, you could potentially fight for an NXT title. So I think just to get more viewership on NXT, just to get those numbers up, that's why they're sending Edge over there, just to kind of tease the water a bit.
Well, it's smart. If you have someone, for example, winning the Money in the Bank, they should, or someone winning the Rumble, or either or, and they've got a contract, right?
Yeah.
Winning the Rumble is like winning the G1 in New Japan, where they have a briefcase. The briefcase just means I get a title opportunity at Wrestle Kingdom, which is the same as Royal Rumble. You get a title opportunity at WrestleMania. It's a symbol of your status and of what you're going to do. I think that, them parading that kind of thing around, being like, I won the Rumble, I can show up wherever I want, brings eyes to all of the different, all of these different things. It makes people think, is it gonna be Balor? Is he gonna go after the Intercontinental or something? Is he gonna do all this kind of shit? And yeah, it really is a smart thing to do. They probably shouldn't do it with Bianca at the same time, but maybe down the line she could just show up where she wants. As it not only does it bring eyes, but it makes that person seem more important as well, that they can go to all these places. They can shop around, as it were.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, this is up there, one of my favorite Rumbles. Just there was a couple of things I didn't like. How there was no Keith Lee in the match. So, some big names that should have been in there that weren't. Could have done with some more NXT guys.
Yeah, it was mainly just the call-ups, wasn't it? There was no just random NXT people like in the women's, was it?
Dakota Kai, Shotzi Blackheart.
Yeah, for the women's, for the men's, I don't think they just had random. Men. Yeah, I think it was all just actual call-ups. It wasn't just.
Priest.
Yeah, again, call-up.
I can't think of any apart from Damian Priest.
No, I think it was just Priest, actually, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Edge winning. Didn't see it coming, but I'm glad. I think he can have a. He's going to put on a good match, regardless of who the champion is. I'm sort of debating whether or not I want Edge to go. Who I want Edge to go against. At the minute, I want Drew to lose the title. To have Edge to have Edge AJ at WrestleMania. Have Drew lose the title in Elimination Chamber.
I think Garrett has a couple of thoughts on that, Jess.
Obviously, I don't want Drew to lose the title at all. I love Drew as the champion.
Drew is not going to lose the title until at least after we have a WWE pay-per-view back in the UK, a live one. Because,
Drew's already lost the title once.
Yeah, and then instantly won it back. I feel like if they milk that, it's just going to...
I think if they are going to pull the trigger on a UK pay-per-view, they've got to have Drew as the champion.
Yeah.
They hate doing UK pay-per-views, though, because of the time difference. Yeah, they just don't want to tape anything.
But they'll do it in Saudi Arabia.
If it's a summer, you can stay up later.
Because the UK can't give the WWE a fucking £1 billion just to come over and do like 10 years worth of shows.
Yes, 100,000 dead. But we are going to have a battlegrounds. Yes, no, not a SummerSlam. Or well. Okay, Fastlane, take it or leave it. Fastlane. Okay. Okay, I'll give you. I'll tell you. Okay, I'll give you one Cyber Tuesday and a capital punishment. Parliament's punishment. Yes, very good. That's Boris Johnson.
I thought that was Theresa May.
That was far too. That was such a good impression. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, just Edge winning. I don't know if I don't know who he's going to go against. I think his best shot's going to be Roman.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going.
I think they're planning on having Drew Sheamus after what's been happening on Raw.
I think that's probably going to be a tide him over as they build up the actual Mania opponent. I think he'll beat Sheamus come Chamber. The winner of Chamber will be who faces Drew. As for who that could be it could be AJ if they continue on with him and Omos. I don't know. That's a really difficult one.
Yeah.
Who's going to be Drew's Mania?
It is weird that Raw is so shit, but they've got so much talent.
Yeah, that's the thing. They've got so many stars that they could be building for Drew, and it feels like they haven't really done much with it. Like it seemed like they were going that way with Keith for a bit, but again, the fact he wasn't at the Rumble doesn't instill much confidence about where he could be.
He's gone. He's gone
now. So how
yeah,
you been?
Keith Lee. I'm not bad, you.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's still recording, so that's fine.
Anyway, what were you saying?
Yeah, so like we were saying, there's so many great talent they've got on Raw that they could be building up for Drew, but it feels like no one's quite there yet. Like we're saying, like Keith Lee, it seemed like they were building up to give him and Drew a good feud, but the fact that he wasn't at the Rumble kind of doesn't instill are they thinking of doing anything with him? I mean, part of that could be because I think isn't Mia Yim having to self-isolate at the moment, and obviously they're a married couple. Do you think that means he has to isolate with her?
I didn't know she was isolating.
Really
yeah, I'm sure she said she had COVID.
That is a very good shout. You're right on
that.
That probably.
Well, if that's the reason, I've got no problem with Keith not being at the Rumble.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I hope that's the reason. I hope that they're just self-isolating and obviously symptomless and fine. But I hope that is the reason and not sending by all account, I mean, I can't speak for the WWE trainers. Maybe they've seen something in his footwork that could go wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, I've seen Keith Lee many a time, and he is a consummate professional. So I don't believe he needs to go back to developmental. And what is NXT anymore if it's not? I mean, don't they already develop? Why would you call him up if you thought he wasn't? The whole point of it is just it doesn't make much sense. Maybe they're just trying to mold him into their version of a big man.
Mm-hmm. What pissed me off about that is that you've got a guy who is already at the professional level. He's a big man who does like ridiculous stuff that a big man wouldn't normally do, and he seems to do it perfectly safe. But yet he gets sent back down there for retraining. But then you've got a character like Nia Jax who has routinely injured people and has not been reportedly sent for retraining. I just don't understand it.
Well, it's nepotism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, she's the cousin of The Rock. I believe it's most likely nepotism. And also she is the only you know, big stronger character you have in the women's division.
Yeah,
there is a lot you can do with her. It's weird, like how behind her they are in different respects. So they gave her the spot in the men's rumble last year, which was great. She did absolutely great in that. And it was, I suppose, you know, it was almost cathartic. Her being very, very healy and whatnot. That was very good. They were gonna do her and Moxley. They constantly have her at the top, and I think that's purely just because, you know, Vince is in love with, you know, larger characters and stronger characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nepotism, I think.
Mm.
I hope, because the track record isn't great. I think possibly people do focus on her just to play devil's advocate. I think people focus on her botches more than others, because a lot of people do mess up. Sasha has messed up a fair amount of time. Often she's hurt herself, but
yeah, I remember putting on Facebook a few years ago, can I please watch a Sasha Banks match without thinking she's going to kill herself?
Yeah, that's true. Like when she does a suicide dive, it feels like it's the most risky thing ever because the way she sometimes lands, it looks like she's almost broke her neck, like on several different occasions.
So it reminds me of when I watch, if you ever watch a Naito against a Bushi match, you are doing this the whole time because it's constant like drops on the heads and everything. If I saw a three-way match between Ibushi, Naito, and Sasha, I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't watch it. I'm not that sadistic.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, we're talking about people being unsafe. Didn't Seth injure Cena and Sting in the space of like a month?
Yeah, was that the same feud where he broke his nose and then
broke Cena's nose? And
yeah, because Buckle Bomb did it to Balor and it did it to Sting. Broke Cena's nose. The thing is, with a move like that, to anyone watching, I have some wrestling experience. I've trained a little. No, I've not had an actual match, but I've been in the ring and I know how much bumps hurt, and you know how hard you have to train your neck and how when you take a move, oftentimes it's just as much on you as it is on the person doing it to you. It's almost like it's this tandem thing. Wrestling is more like a dance than it is a fight because you're on the same team. You're working towards the same thing. In that respect, a Buckle Bomb, it's almost on how they land as well. There's no way you can go back and pinpoint. You can't just say, nah, Sting got it wrong because he's old. Because he's done the Buckle Bomb thousands of fucking times. And it's been fine. I don't know. But then again, I'm here sat basically talking about like, no, Seth is great and he doesn't do well. But then on the other hand, I'm like, Nia unsafe. I don't know. It's
It is one of those things.
I'm really interested in looking at the actual statistics of move to injury ratio for a lot of the wrestlers and cutting moves, because I guess this will lead on to our almost censorship in a sense. I'd hardly say it's censorship, stopping people from using moves, but sort of. I mean, you have Joe not using the buckle bomb.
You mean Muscle Buster?
Yeah, Muscle Buster. But like, again, it's a move he's done a million times incredibly safely. I don't know.
Well, we can actually go into that in the next segment, but to kind of bring it back round, anything else you want to bring up on the men's Rumble? Again, I think overall it was another solidly booked one. There was some nice surprise returns, like seeing Carlito, which I called. That was fun.
Yes, Carlito.
Christian coming back, and it looks like he's actually kind of back with the same thing as Edge, going to be wrestling a lot more, which is great to see. Christian
has said that he is back as an active wrestler, but he's only part-time.
Yeah, so he's kind of
good.
It's what he should be doing.
I did hear Randy Orton broke a Royal Rumble record.
Oh, which one did he break? I'm glad it wasn't the one I thought he was going to.
Longest time in the Royal Rumble without eliminating anyone.
Fair. I mean, I was super worried they were going to give him the tie with Austin. Yeah. I think that was like a perfectly good swerve, but I was very worried for a couple. I knew he was obviously coming back at the end, but I was very worried when it was just Edge alone in that ring. Like, I thought this is going to be it. They're going to give it to Orton. I mean, obviously I'm super glad they didn't, and it was like a nice little fake out at the end there, so that was really good. But yeah, I really like this. I like the whole pay-per-view top to bottom. It never felt boring. There was nothing like massively bad on it. I thought everything kind of made sense. Apparently, a good reason why that could have been is apparently Vince wasn't actually at the show. It was headed up by Triple H, Pritchard, and Kevin Dunn. Apparently, he was watching it. He was watching on the network, but they were the three who were actually handling things. And that's got to be the first time Vince probably hasn't been there for like something like this.
So he's not been at a few shows because he wasn't at the SmackDown before.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if he was at Raw on Monday, but it's because his brother.
Because
his brother recently died, and I believe Sunday might have been the funeral. He was still reportedly very much involved. He was just on the phone the whole time to everyone there. Anyone who takes this as like a if anyone goes like, oh, the show was so much better because he wasn't there, it's like, this is the show. He booked the show.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, even if he wasn't in attendance, he was going to be either on the phone or sending constant messages because he is just an absolute psycho worker like that. There was no way he was not at least going to have some kind of hand in it.
Mm-hmm.
But take from that from what you will.
Yeah.
It's like
being there, but we'll see how much more he's comfortable leaving other people to handle it.
I was just going to say the same thing. Hopefully now he sees that it can function without him there.
In COVID, now we know that if you're the CEO of WWE, you can work remotely. It's fine. You can book via Zoom.
I think Vince needs to do a Jeff Bezos though and step down as CEO.
Never gonna happen.
The thing,
no, it's not.
Once you get to a Bezos status or a Musk status or a McMahon status, the shareholders don't want you to step down, because when you are Mr. McMahon, who is so synonymous with wrestling, when you step down, the stock is going to tank.
Mm-hmm.
If he dies, the stock is going to tank. If he somehow tweets like, I fucking hate wrestling, not that McMahon tweets that, the stock will go down. I don't even know if it's as much of a passion for him now, especially because he wanted to do the XFL and he wanted to do all these other things. But it's more of just a Monopoly Man-esque capitalist venture where he has to be there because he doesn't want the stock to go down. He doesn't want to upset shareholders.
I think he's obviously still passionate about the product. Whether he knows what's best for it is obviously another discussion. But at the end of the day, he was always getting into this business to be number one and to make a shit ton of money, because he basically was the guy to do the first of everything. Like, he basically killed the territories. He basically helped me. Obviously, he wasn't the first to do pay-per-view, but he was the one who really spearheaded that and made that become a massive thing. So they were getting lots of money making live weekly shows like Raw and SmackDown. So he's always got his eye on what's like the next big thing. Like, even the network, like, say we went about the Peacock deal, but that's kind of a bit of smart thinking. He's probably thinking, where is streaming going next? Because it's already at the point now where streaming's so oversaturated that maybe the next logical step is a lot of them do start to combine or sell their rights to other services just to kind of keep up with the competition. So at the end of the day, I think he's passionate, but he does always want him to see about where he's going to make that next big, like, $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost been, because there have been a few kind of like mergers of wrestling, like media. Like, for example, Evolve is now part of WWE. Progress is now part. You have some WXW stuff, and then you've also got things like IWTV that is like I kind of remember just the names of who would be on there, but like you've got like Riptide and a bunch of others that are just kind of thrown together in this online thing. Yeah, I mean, what that means for the future, because no one can, you have to now buy Peacock to watch WWE. I wonder if that will expand their brand or lower it. Will people actually bother to move from the network to Peacock, or will people already on Peacock bother to fucking watch the network?
I think it's going to depend. There's already been a lot of people wondering like how accessible it's going to be. So I mean, one thing we've always criticized about not just the WWE one, but more sort of wrestling streaming like apps, they are pretty poorly made. I think the network is the best one out of them, and that's still got its issues. Someone did like showed an example of what the Peacock app is like. So they did a search for, I think it was Amy, Amy Fowler from Parks and Rec. So if you just search the actress's name, Parks and Rec should be on that service, and nothing came up. And he was sort of showing, how is this going to work for the when the WWE network's on here if I can't just put in a wrestler's name to try and find a match? So take of that what you will.
I don't know. Hopefully there's some kind of integration for them. Already, more than anything, I just get fucked off when like I'm on Twitter, and I guess this kind of leads into censorship as well in some respect, but it's like I will there'll be a tweet from WWE, and it's a clip from something, and it will just say it's blocked for me, which it isn't, because it's already been on TV here, and I can also just go on the WWE UK one and look at the exact same clip. But I wonder if, because there's a lot of like, it's gonna have to be so many deals made with like, where is Peacock available? Is it just gonna be the US? Is it gonna be Canada? Is it just gonna be like some areas? Maybe there'll be some kind of state regulations here and there. I don't know. Probably not statewide, but
yeah,
who knows? It will probably affect us here in some way. Will the amount of content that they make go up? Will the amount of content they make go down? Because honestly, the good stuff on the network now is not the wrestling. It's the like decent production teams they get in for the 24s and the day of.
Oh, for sure. That WWE icon Yokozuna was fantastic. If any of you guys saw that, so I'm looking forward to the rest of those. Like, they've been doing really good little documentaries and stuff. Oh, it's super good. Definitely get on it when you get a chance. It was really good. I think it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be a possible similar deal maybe happening over here. For like we've been said, for now, we still have the network. I maybe could see, I think we might have said this before, I could see them maybe giving it to BT and it's going exclusively on maybe their app or something. So I could see a similar deal happen over here, possibly.
Onto like a BT Sport app or something.
Yeah, something like that. Because they already have the rights to show Raw, SmackDown, like away from Sky Sports. It could happen. I think they could easily strike up a second deal like that over here.
Yeah, talking about the network, they just need once COVID's gone. Like, I miss them doing just the silly shows, like the ride along
Yeah.
Table for three. Just honestly, I've never seen someone laugh. Then me lass, we were watching an episode of Ride Along. It was the one with the Riot Squad, and I've never seen her laugh so much than when Sarah Logan farted in that car. That's what I pay my $9.99 for.
That's where you get your investment back.
Yeah. Sarah Logan casting out Ruby Riot and Liv Morgan and laughing about it.
Right. Moving on now to the big topic. We haven't really had a good discussion about something in a while, and I kind of want to bring up the idea, as we mentioned, the censorship of wrestling. It's kind of fair to say we live in sort of the age of when cancel culture is kind of a huge thing. So I think people have kind of got their thoughts back and forth on it. But I mean, just this week alone, when you look at like any other aspect of the entertainment industry, Marilyn Manson was obviously heavily allegedly implicated by Evan Rachel Wood, which has already led to him getting dropped by his record label. There's already calls for the FBI to do an investigation into him, so it is pretty prominent. The one thing that's kind of came up recently in wrestling that's led to a lot of censorship that I saw was obviously in the wake of the speaking out movement, a lot of wrestlers were obviously heavily implicated in that. And the way certain companies sort of responded to it was quite interesting. So Progress Wrestling, because a lot of the wrestlers that were implicated were involved with Progress. Management there didn't handle it well when it first broke, and obviously it changed hands. Now, their handling of it is something I don't necessarily agree with for some things. So the main thing is if you go in there, demand Progress service. Any mention of David Starr has been completely removed, including his matches being edited out. All of Super Strong Style from 2019 is gone. And it feels like a rule for one and a rule for the other, because you can still find matches with Travis Banks on there, with Jimmy Havoc. So it's a bit of a rule for one and a rule for another. And I don't necessarily agree that was the right way to go about it. But I suppose to get into that and kick off the discussion, do you guys ever feel that censorship is ever a justified action to take with this kind of thing?
I mean, when we're talking about censorship, you go, there's such a big spectrum there, and what is censorship and what is not. Like if you look at Trump being taken off Twitter, right? Yeah. Is it really censorship to just not have him on there? I don't think so. You know, you're not exactly. It's hardly a free speech issue. In terms of like wrestling, you could talk about censorship in that they make it black and white when there's blood, or they cut away, and also they remove alleged sex offenders from their shows. I don't know. You should always, believe in due process where possible, but then, I guess you should obviously be believing, victims as well. I believe it's possible to kind of do both, where you're allowed to wait for the facts, but you can kind of try and find a middle ground. I mean, Jordan Devlin is still the cruiserweight champion. I mean, there are two currently, right? Two.
Well, yeah. So Devlin is the cruiserweight champion in NXT UK. So I guess they've got one for the NXT UK, and then it's what's his name in the main brand NXT. There is one in NXT. I've forgotten his name at the moment, but they've got two at the moment. Yeah.
So Progress still haven't put Devlin back.
No, Devlin matches are still on there. The only wrestler I can see that has been completely removed is David Starr. Now, obviously, with the David Starr thing, he was probably one of the biggest independent names, but then also the allegations against him were like incredibly serious. And I think even he sort of held his hands up a little bit. He kind of did that thing where he sort of admitted to kind of some of it, but not all of it. So that was kind of at least him bang to rights. But then my point is, Travis Banks, there was evidence shown about what he had been up to and the bad things he did. But his matches are still featured on the Progress card. From what I can tell, it only just looks like David Starr stuff has been erased.
Well, it almost doesn't even. It's not even censorship in a sense, where it breaches onto the art versus artist conversation, where you take a Benoit, for example, who does a horrible thing, and you put up like they do with the Looney Tunes or Tom and Jerry.
So this is going to be my point. Underneath the video, there is the disclaimer explaining these videos will feature people who had been outed in the speaking out movement, and obviously, like viewer beware kind of thing. It feels like that is sort of the route they should go, because, like you say, with the old Looney Tunes cartoons, they had to go back and put in a thing saying, you know, these reflected things at the time, and we don't think of this anymore. I feel like something like that would probably be a better way to go, because like I can see why they haven't removed nearly every single match of someone implicated, because that means their library would have been drastically slashed. Like, I mean, Jimmy Havoc obviously has only had allegations leveled against him. If it all turned out to be true, then that would be their entire feud and program with Osprey that built the company gone, and a whole lot of other fucking matches from the library gone. So it feels like maybe it's a rule for one for a rule for the other. At least, like I think a better way of going around it as well is like with Benoit, WWE does it the smart way. They don't mention him in anything. You can't find him on their website. You can't find his name on anything. But the matches are still there. They just make sure of a point to try and keep them a bit hidden. So when you see like the match-by-match guide, it will say who versus who. But when it's a Benoit match, it's usually Kurt Angle challenges for the Intercontinental title. They just don't mention him. And I think that's at least like a smart way to go about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's such a difficult point to stand with it, where one of my favorite matches was the one you and I watched, where it was that tag match with David Starr and Walter. Where if I look back on that match, I can still, you know, enjoy it, and I remember the feeling I got. But then also, like, I don't know if I'd want to watch it again. At the end of the day, all of it is just going to come down to, because they're all companies, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's going to be a profit thing. It's the same thing with companies like Coca-Cola and all these things suddenly doing Pride Month or doing Black History Month. They don't care. They never have cared, or they wouldn't just do it on 1 month. They do it now because it's more profitable now to do it. You know, it's why they didn't do it before. It's why they do it now, because it's more profitable. If it's more profitable to get rid of abusers, then they'd probably do it. You know, and right now there's not really like there's not a call for things to. There's not people saying I will boycott the network enough for them to actually take anyone off, you know, so they won't do it.
I just think it's just not. I just don't think it's ever the best move to kind of erase something and pretend it was never part of their history. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like they're just really trying to bury something that has happened and people know what's happened and people were there and that they used to work with this person. It just feels like too much of a backpedaling move to try and be like, we never had it's not necessarily them saying this, but it feels like by just getting rid of those kind of matches, it's like saying that they never had any relation with David Starr, which obviously we know is not the case. I just feel like going back and deleting the archives and changing them just is a bit of a funny way to go about things.
I know I'm jumping here a lot, but the thought that just crossed my mind is I remember an interview with, it was Colbert and Jerry Seinfeld, I think, and they were talking about art versus artist, and it was Cosby, and Seinfeld said, you know, it's deplorable what he did. I don't condone it, but I still enjoy the Cosby Show, and I'd still watch the Cosby Show because, you know, he enjoyed it and he can separate art from artist. But then, you know, Colbert said, because what he did is so abject to the themes of the show, which was about family and about love and whatnot, you can't separate the two. I think with a lot of wrestlers, you know, you could somewhat possibly make an argument that you can separate their art from the artist. But let's take a Joey Ryan, for example, whose whole character was this, sleazy guy that on the outside as a fan, you can kind of be like, it's weird retroactively looking at it because he comes out with these like men dressed as dicks for a big show, right? And he does all this thing where people grab his dick and he flips and blah 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 blah. You look back on it now and you're like, oh, that's horrible and disgusting. But you looked at it then and it's like, this is pretty comedic. There's no horrible thing to it, so we thought. But then, yeah, I guess you could kind of be like, you can't really separate those two. Maybe you should get rid of that because, it's not like David Starr was coming out every week and doing touching women as part of his character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for putting it in that respect, you'd look at a David Starr and a Joey Ryan, and you'd be like, delete all the Joey Ryan stuff, get it gone. I don't know. I don't know the right answer. I don't know if.
I think that's the thing. There isn't really a right answer to this. There's just always going to be like an opinion. Like I'm not saying like I condone what either of them two did. Like even if the footage was there, I probably would never go back and watch any of their matches. I just still don't think it's the right decision to necessarily get rid of it all. Jace, what do you kind of think? I mean, you've just been kind of sitting there, we've been going back and forth. What do you think?
I think it's a difficult one to talk about because, it's like you guys have said, there's no correct answer. But for me, it's like, where's the line? Mm-hmm. I think that's the problem that a lot of people are going to have. Like, where is the line? For instance, you've mentioned David Starr, you've mentioned Jimmy Havoc, Joey Ryan, who've all been accused or admitted to, or to some degree, been involved in some sort of sexual assault.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, sexual assault is terrible. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I think we all agree on that.
100%. Yeah.
But then there's also other horrible things in the world that people involved in the wrestling business have done. Like, look at New Jack. He attempted to kill someone. He's admitted to attempting to kill someone in the ring. Yet there's been nothing done with New Jack.
And he was like continued to wrestle following that match as well.
Yeah. Hulk Hogan with his racist comments.
Yeah. Well, that was what
he was blacklisted for a bit, but he's back now.
Yeah, he was removed from the Hall of Fame, and then last year he was meant to go in for the second time.
Yeah.
So
it's like with the whole censorship thing, it's like with a lot of things in life, like society's decided, right, this is good, this is bad, this is all right, blah blah. But with stuff like this, it seems to be that there's no line. Like someone can be accused of something, and then the next week they'll in the main event of a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some people, they can be accused of something, and they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Like take for instance Enzo Amore. He was accused of rape, and he was suspended from the company, I think quite rightly, while an investigation is ongoing. That accusation was, I believe it was either fabricated or they couldn't find any evidence to do anything about it, yet he was still terminated from WWE. So if an accusation can do that to one person, get them sacked, why is it that some people can get away with admitting things and nothing happening?
I think it goes back to what I was saying about the profit margins, right? If you look at who just got fired, who just reported that he got fired back in January, right? You look at Lars Sullivan and you look at Hulk Hogan. Both are people who have made racist comments. Lars Sullivan did it on a bunch of edgy fucking incel forums or whatever. And no one gives a shit because no one was behind him anyway, and he
Yeah.
couldn't sell a black mass because he was shit. But then you look at Hulk Hogan, and no matter what, Hulk Hogan is still making them a lot of fucking money. He is still a brand ambassador. He is still requested by the Saudis when they go over there. He still sells so much fucking merchandise. So honestly, I think it is just a point that if it gets to the point where it is not profitable to be behind Hogan, they won't be. If it was more profitable to get rid of all of his stuff from the network, they would do it in a heartbeat. I think, much like they might do with Lars. No, like
I don't think WWE would ever really go back and take matches off their network. I don't think that there's ever been any kind of record of that. I mean, they're very funny with the network. Some things have been edited out, but it's never been like a full match. Like I think it's weird things that might be a bit over sexualized. Like I believe the what was the WrestleMania where it was Mickie James versus Trish? Was that 22?
Yes.
Yeah. The big they got rid of her licking the V sign. I think that's completely out of the network. So it's like little things like that they will get rid of. It was surprising that Sullivan lasted this long. Sorry, mate.
Owen falling from the rafters, that's been edited out.
Well, I think they've still got the bit in because that never made it to TV. I think there's like the long-standing rumor that there might be a copy of footage of him falling buried deep within Titan Tower. I don't think there is. I think no one caught that on film. I think you can still watch it, and it does have them announcing it, if I'm right.
I think the announcer, but I think
because that'd be hard to edit out because they do updates throughout the show. I think a
lot of the things surrounding it, like up until like there's no music for him playing, that there's no music for his opponent playing. It's just JR saying, "This is what's happened."
Yeah,
like with censorship, like we talk about the speaking out movement. We've touched on racism, but then there's also censorship in like WWE not allowing. I think it's censorship not allowing wrestlers to craft their own promos. Because
I think
we've seen from people like Jericho, Cena, Punk, Kevin Owens that these people know how to get a crowd going. They're the ones going out in front of a crowd not so much the last year, but 5-6 nights a week. But
I would say it's more like for example, doing webinars as I used to do. I don't think I was being censored because I couldn't cut my own promo into the script they gave me. It's more just like that's just more on poor management. Censorship would be more like when Punk does cut a promo and they cut him off, I suppose, in a sense. But I think we probably delved quite deep into the heavy side of what you could see as censorship in wrestling, like cutting people's matches who are accused abusers or proven abusers. But I mean, we could also talk more about the more light side.
Well, I was going to bring that up.
That's lighter conversation, I suppose.
So I think
I don't think anyone wants 3 white men talking about sexism or sexual assault.
Yeah, well, we're not necessarily the most qualified for it. I mean, that's the thing, when we're not getting into that minutiae of it, we're getting more into like the after effect of like what happens in this kind of medium to people following it. I mean, if you want to kind of go into, I guess, the more stranger sides of censorship or like lighter, it's the way WWE kind of tries to control that they're the only wrestling brand. So over the years, there's been numerous things. I was like doing bits of research for this. Back in 2010, there was a report that went out that apparently they didn't want wrestlers doing Ric Flair chops because they didn't want the crowd to do the woo following it. And that's because at the time, Ric Flair was in TNA. And then even as recent as, say, this year, when the Thunderdome became a thing, it's apparently been reported that if fans are sat there wearing an AEW shirt or any kind of outside promotion not affiliated with them, they weren't going to be allowed to be shown. That's where WWE censorship gets really strange, because that's them trying to make it seem like there is no other alternative wrestling, like they're the only show in town.
I mean, okay, censorship is okay. In a completely horrible capitalistic way, it's their product, it's their house, it's their show. If you're watching Friends, right, and they've blurred out someone's shirt on the show because they're wearing maybe someone on Friends is wearing a Frasier shirt, and for some reason they're like, well, Frasier doesn't exist, we're the only sitcom. Would you call it censorship? I don't think so. Obviously, it's ridiculous that they do this because they ignore competition, which is so ridiculous because they're making their own competition now, like with NXT India, and so they tried to make NXT Japan and all of this kind of thing. But them actually, complete devil's advocate, them actually doing it, I don't know if it borders on the same level as censorship in the strictest term. Is it the right thing to do? Fucking no. No. Someone should be able to wear a Bullet Club shirt or an Elite shirt or an FTR shirt or whatever. Because, yeah, there are more brands, there are more promotions, but I don't think it's censorship in the strictest term.
But saying that, WWE are a publicly traded company.
Right.
So they shouldn't be allowed, because what's to say one of the people who they've not allowed is a shareholder? Like this,
I feel like they should, I feel like if a shareholder, well, that's not.
Someone could, some like amateur, like trader, someone who just does it like for something to do. Maybe they enjoy the thrill of trading stocks. They might buy one share. Now I know WWE aren't really going to give a shit about them, but they're censoring part of their company.
Let's say a stakeholder signs up to be in the Thunderdome, right? And they've gone, you know what? I'm going to wear an Elite shirt because I want to tank the stock of WWE. If WWE find out that their shareholder has gone onto a WWE product wearing a rival promotions thing, they'll probably be like, search them up and be like, is he trying to tank the stock? That's probably what goes through like their business head. It's just like,
but
all they care about is profit margin. They'd probably try to do them for insider trading.
I was meaning someone like one of the three of us, like a wrestling fan, just thought, right, I want to be able to say I own part of WWE, so I've bought a stock, and then just not thinking about it, managed to get onto the Thunderdome, and just happened to be wearing a Cody Rhodes American Nightmare t-shirt. Just not thinking about it. Just that was what they were wearing that day.
You woke up and just threw it on without thinking.
Well, no, like got home from work, got in the shower, thought, oh, I'm on the Thunderdome tonight. Just there's a t-shirt. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I still
don't.
Just it like counts as a.
I think it is in a way. It is censorship because that's pretty much saying you will wear you will wear and do what we want you to do, or we're going to kick you.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember the reports that like at the back of the live shows when AEW was just starting, there would talk of they gave people with AEW shirts WWE shirts. I don't remember if that was verified, but there were a few people that said it, and I don't believe they have a
So-
reason to lie.
What, the staff at AEW were giving out WWE shirts?
No, the staff at
Well,
WWE.
at WWE
Oh.
shows, if someone turned up wearing a Bucks t-shirt or a Kenny t-shirt, they get given a
Okay.
Roman.
Okay, all right, but it just I'm talking like it's practically semantics at this point, but in the strictest sense of censorship, is it censorship? Let's say I go to a WWE show and I start chanting. Let's talk about chants, right? We go to WWE and we do a CM Punk chant, all three of us.
Yeah.
And the crowd gets in with it. And on the live broadcast, they mute that.
Mhm.
Is that censorship? In the strictest term, yeah, they're stopping us. It's still their product. Let's say we then go to a recording of Countdown, and we start up a Noel Edmonds chant because we fucking love Deal or No Deal, right?
Uh-huh.
The clock is ticking down. It's like and you can't hear it because all you can hear is us chanting no fucking Edmonds.
To be
And then
fair,
you
they're
guys-
both
Countdown, is that also censorship?
well, they're both Channel 4 properties, so they'll edit out the fucking bit, but they're not going to be bothered about the Noel Edmonds.
That's true.
You haven't
Deal or
thought
No
this
Deal
through.
to Countdown's Raw.
Really, it would have been if we went to Countdown and we started chanting for Pointless.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
shout. We started chanting for I'm a Celeb. Just start chanting Jeremy Clarkson's name.
No, 'cause that's not.
No,
that's
I'm a
not
Celeb.
quick.
Fucking he wants to be a millionaire. It's been a long day.
Millionaire.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, we know what you mean.
How many letters is millionaire?
Because when you go to a show, when you go to a taped show, you basically sign, even if you don't sign anything, you practically buy into a contract that says your likeness is ours to do what we want with. We can make promo packages with you, right? For example, Ms. Girl or the guy that went when Taker lost. They don't own their likeness at that time for that. WWE
Yeah.
do.
Well, that's part of because technically they're in a public forum, so you can't not consent to be
a public forum. It's not because it's not like a town hall meeting,
Yeah, but
I would like to see what you have to tick. We should try and get on the Thunderdome. We should see what you have to do and what you have to agree to be on the Thunderdome.
I could check and see if there's actually a list up online right now. If you guys want to keep going,
Might as well. It's interesting. I know. I'm basically I'm practically being a bit of a prick here, where I'm just like, nah, not censorship, but like, it's I don't know. It's solely on a this is their company. Viewpoint. I don't really see it as censorship. Do I agree with it? No, it's fucking dumb. But it's hardly like you're locking me away. You're not locking away. Who's the guy that just got jailed in Russia? The opponent.
Yeah, I know who you mean, but
3.5, but he's already done a year under house arrest. It's not like I'm is it Vasily? Maybe? Whatever. It's not like I'm being put in a gulag or I'm being put the Rozzers aren't showing up to my house and slapping me on the wrist and saying, "All right, Sonny, you've worn your cleaner shirt, your Kenny Omega shirt to WWE Raw. You're down a slammer, I'm not being victimized, I suppose, because if you're the victim of censorship, you're actually a victim, and I don't really think that there's any kind of victimhood that goes on when they just do that. It's just a really stupid business decision.
Well, it depends what level of censorship you want to go to, because you can go from what we started talking about with the speaking out movement, or dog, there's a doggy, or you could go to the complete other end of being like you're getting someone stopped you on the street to do a bit for Channel 4 News, and they give you a list of words you can't say. So it just depends what end of the spectrum you're going to be on.
Right. Well, ultimately, then, let's say someone shows up to Raw wearing a shirt that is like accusing someone of doing something. You know, let's say there's a movement at a show of a load of people wearing a shirt that accuses someone. You know, is that more censorship than just censoring out an AEW thing? You'd say yes, because it's serious allegations.
See, that's different, because that's defamation.
Well, I mean,
rather than censorship.
In this, well, yeah, but then they'd censor what they were doing, right?
Well, yeah, but again, like, because if WWE promoted that, then they could be liable for defamation as well, for allowing that to go out. Then, say if it was on a Raw show, a lot of people turned up with T-shirts that said, say, Matt LeBlanc is a rapist. Wow. Just Matt LeBlanc was just the first person that popped into my head.
What did Joey do?
Joey did everything. He didn't share his food. Then if WWE allowed that a lot of people with those T-shirts or those signs to go out, then Matt LeBlanc could turn around and say, well, they were allowing this to happen. They must believe it. I'm suing them as well.
Right. And then let's say a month down the line, he admits to it. People would look back and say WWE censored these people.
But at the time, if there was no
100%. All I'm saying,
evidence.
Yeah.
If it's
all I'm saying,
like you can accuse anyone of anything.
Yeah.
Like you see it in Parliament, where you could see it in Parliament. Like you could see someone accusing Boris Johnson of whatever. Doesn't make it true, but they still wouldn't allow it to happen in Parliament. Even if there was a slight bit of evidence, they wouldn't. So it just depends on the situation at the time. Like, I get what you're saying about WWE being a company, they don't want to advertise the competition. But at the same time, it's not going, like, the majority of people who watch AEW or New Japan or Impact or Ring of Honor or Progress or whatever already know these things exist.
Yeah.
And most likely, even most casual fans nowadays, because of the internet, will have seen, AEW is a thing. Dean Ambrose is there. Chris Jericho's there. Or they'll have heard of New Japan, they'll have heard of Ring of Honor. So it's not really doing anything, I don't think, to not let these people on.
I mean, looking at the Thunderdome thing, I can't find much of a checklist, but apparently a lot of places are saying if you are, they discourage you from wearing anything that like is associated with any kind of other promotion. So that's where it seems like they definitely aren't allowing people to wear like AEW shirts or anything that isn't affiliated with WWE. There's not much in the way of what you can't do. Like I think there's some obvious stuff. I mean, one thing that would ruin your experience, Jace, is that you're not allowed to be visibly intoxicated or smoke while on screen.
I don't smoke on screen. I drink. I don't smoke. And to be fair, I only have these.
Screen.
I didn't hear that.
You say you smoke everywhere but on screen.
Yeah.
Someone whack on the camera. Just. What was I gonna say? It's weird though, because some people wearing an AEW shirt at a WWE show, or wearing a WWE shirt to an AEW show, more the former.
Yeah.
It is almost. I know that people wear them often as a sign of rebellion, you know, as a statement. For example, if I went to WWE Raw and I put on a Bullet Club shirt, or I put on an AEW shirt, part of me would be like, it is kind of it's definitely a statement that you're making with that. And I know so many people that, you know, that do that.
I think you're right. I think there are some fans that, although they are going to do that as a bit of a rebellious statement to kind of show that they're more in favor of another promotion. But I feel like at the same time, I feel like a lot of fans don't really think of that connection. Like a guy could just wear a Young Buck shirt to a WWE show because he just thought, this is a wrestling shirt, I'm going to wear this. So I'd imagine those would be the fans you'd feel a bit more for if they showed up to a show like that and were told, no, you need to put this shirt on that represents Roman Reigns because we don't want a Young Buck shirt on TV.
It's a purely thing that only happens in these larger promotions, right?
Yeah.
When you go to Progress, when I wear a shirt to Progress, well, I'll always wear a wrestling shirt to Progress, but it's honestly like, you know, there's not a single part of my brain that's like, I'm gonna fucking show Progress my AEW shirt and show them the competition, because to anything smaller, there's no competition. There is no censoring my shirt there, because fucking why the fuck would they? When you go to a Progress show or a little indie show wearing a shirt like that, it's more to just show your love of wrestling. But when you go to a WWE show wearing an AEW shirt, sure, there's loads of people that don't really care or register. They just put on a shirt.
Yeah.
But there is still a statement in wearing it that that a lot of people are making, I suppose. It's so weird that you can putting on a shirt is a statement when you put it on there, as opposed to wearing it just outside of the arena.
I find it's very counteractive to the point they're making that they're going to go to a WWE show to represent the brand that they prefer, but yet they've still shelled out like $50 for a ticket. You know what I mean?
Out of the ring.
Those are the kind of fans that would sound off in the Facebook comments saying WWE's rubbish, it's nowhere near as good as it used to be, blah, blah, blah. But they'll still tune in and follow the product. You know what I mean? It's like, if you really felt that way, why would you pay the money to support this product?
Yeah, with the shirts thing, I just hope that this isn't well, it's sort of to do with censorship. I hope that when they say, no, you can't wear that, you've got to wear one of our shirts, I hope they let them choose which one.
Oh yeah, I'd be like, well, if I have to wear one of your shirts, I get to pick it from the merch table.
Yeah.
If they fucking come up to me and they're like, oh, I put on this shirt and I put it on and I'm wearing a Lars Sullivan shirt, I'd leave.
Yeah, you'd be so mad.
Shirtless.
Maybe that's a stance you could take. It's like, you go put one of our shirts and you're like, nah, it's fine, I just won't wear one at all, and just be the topless bloke in the stands.
To be fair, I reckon if you could get enough people, you could fill an arena with people with no shirts on.
Just like do the classic thing to do at like American football games and write like a wrestler's like one letter of a wrestler's name on each stomach. You know what I mean? And get in a line.
You do L, you do A, I'll do N, and we find another person with A, and hopefully we line up and it spells Lana. But you know, it's a toss up. Used to go and get a drink or something, you know, they might have to censor it, in fact.
Yeah, that's where there'll just be a big blur where there's just like a patch of skin.
I definitely read Lana at one point.
Yeah,
I think that's what we need to do at some point. If this pod gets bigger, we need to start a campaign. We will go to a show, all go topless, get as many people as we can, but we'll make sure we do it in America, where they're most likely they're just going to go, oh, it must be topless day. Whoop. So then it's just everyone. And we'll make sure it's a taping.
Well, if we're going with stuff painted on our stomach, I'm really going to have to shave down there.
Yeah, I'm just. It's a jungle, boys. It's a
Yeah,
jungle.
man.
I can't do it. I've got a button-up shirt on. So we're living.
Bum,
I
bum,
mean,
bum, bum.
people are like, oh, let's give women a chance for the women's revolution. Let's get Daniel Bryan to WrestleMania. Let's go Kofi Mania, and we're like, let's be shirtless.
Yeah. We're
We've got the
essentially
important stuff.
we're essentially like the weakest form of streakers. Like rather than just going full on with it, we're just like, no, let's just get half naked.
We're not even close to the ring. We're in the fucking nosebleeds, and we're just shirtless, just like way in the back, like.
Look at us.
Censorship.
Well, to be fair, they probably wouldn't show me, even if we were on like hard cam. They would do whatever they could not to show me, because they'd probably think that the heartogram around my nipple is probably a satanic symbol.
Bloody Satanists coming to our show, ruining our fun.
To be fair, in America, they probably would think it was a pentagram.
I'm pretty sure there's good proportion.
So we've talked about we've jumped around on a bunch of different subjects there. Let's touch on when a network wants to censor something, because a network obviously rate every single thing they put on has to have some kind of parental rating of some kind, right? Over here, you've got PG, U, 12,
12A, 15, 18. Yeah.
Over there, you've got R-rated, M for mature. Is it no? M for mature is just for video games, right?
So this is more their ratings, and those ones are obviously more film. TV is very different over there. Like we have the watershed, don't we? So it gets past 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's when they say, okay, now you can swear, be a bit more edgy.
Yeah,
in America, they don't necessarily have a watershed thing. Like even past a certain time, it's still very taboo to hear swearing on shows. Like it's only been in the last couple of years things have relaxed a little bit. Obviously, you've got those shows that will push the envelope, but swearing. Yeah, but like swearing and a lot of stuff is still heavily bleeped out and censors. Whereas over in the UK, it's like, no, you can say fuck as much as you want past 9 o'clock, and we're not going to really do much about it.
Obviously, we've been through the very famous PG era,
Mm-hmm.
but I think a lot of the shows have been rated TV 14 because that's their sort of 12.
Yeah, they're trying to push it a bit more.
Right.
Adult,
to me, it doesn't feel like the product's really changed much.
No.
Also, the way that these ratings boards work is completely ridiculous. Nudity is an instant mature or 18.
Yeah.
But you can bloody someone up in TV 14. You could practically show a beheading on a TV show, and they'd probably still rate it a 15 in the UK.
This is why, if you look at the history of it, not just in TV, but in film, age ratings are entirely pointless. Like, I'm on the stance entirely pointless. Like, if I grew up watching stuff I shouldn't have because of an age rating, and it doesn't warp a person's mind, it doesn't kind of make you it doesn't kind of make you want to go out and shoot someone or do something you shouldn't. I think what it comes down to is there shouldn't be age rating on stuff. It should just be always down to like context and whether the parent decides it's okay for them to watch it. I don't think that they need to have an age rating that restricts someone from being able to go watch a certain age thing. As long as someone's young has been given that permission to do so, it should be fine.
Yeah, there is no stopping kids from watching things now.
Yeah, exactly.
You just physically can't, because your kid knows more than you about the device in their hand.
Yeah, exactly.
If they want to watch something, they're watching it already.
Put it this way, like you could ban a kid from going to see a film because it's got violent fighting in it, but then they can go on YouTube and watch a real fist fight recorded on someone's camera phone, and that's a lot more violent to behold because it's real. That's a real thing.
But half the people don't even care, that like my mother wouldn't let me watch wrestling as a kid. Too violent wrestling was, and like I had to go over to friends to watch taped WrestleManias on VHS, like that. I played GTA as a kid, and then I got to like the age of 12, and then my mom was like, oh, "Fuck it, just do whatever. I don't care." And here's 18, I'll buy it for you.
Yeah.
I went to movie theaters as when I was 13, and I would go up, and the guy would ask, "When were you born?" And then I would say, 1992, and then he'd be like, "Don't you mean 1991?" And I'd say, "Yeah," and he'd be like, "All right," and you go, because it's like you say, you can't put an intelligence rating on a piece of media.
No.
Partly because it would be very weird to do so, I suppose.
Yeah.
And also because you can't really measure that. But yeah. But as to how they use these ratings and what dictates what happens, one of the biggest things is people talk about bringing the Attitude Era back because they miss. People talk about bringing the Attitude Era back because they miss blood and they miss violence, as if that's actually what's missing, or you know, that's needed. And when someone does get bloodied up, you have to put it in black and white because then it's just black liquid on their face, and no one knows what that is. You know? You can make an argument that someone getting bloodied up does make a match better. You could look at Bret Hart and Stone Cold. You could look at my favorite match from the last few years, Cody Dustin, where the Blood Brothers match, mad, amazing, but like, does it need to be censored? Does it need to be black and white? Should they just kind of go ham? And even if they do, it's not like they're really being censored, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't use a lot of blood doesn't mean they're being censored from using blood. They wouldn't use it in every match. It would be ridiculous. We're not ECW or
GCW
or something.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that in that context, it's like less. It's one of those things where WWE, we already know that they basically have a no blade and no blood policy. That's pretty clear cut. But that's because that's making their conscious effort to make sure they are being a family-friendly product, because that's what they advertise themselves as. AEW is that product that aims to be more for the teenager to like younger adult, slightly beyond that. But even then, like, they don't use blood heavily. Like, it's a promotion that definitely has it, but it's something that they only clearly are smart enough to know you need it for a certain type of match, and it should only be brought out on certain occasions. If you went back to the Attitude Era where you could watch a pay-per-view and see at least a couple of matches where blood would be drawn, it's just kind of eventually lost its meaning.
Yeah, it's the same. It's like that with anything in wrestling, though. It's like it's what it used to be like. Like, say if the main event was going to have a table spot, like no other match on that card was having a table spot. It's the same with blood. Like, bring it out every now and then. Like, I think the last feud I can remember that should have had blood, I can't remember if it actually did, was Edge and Orton. Like, that could have done with blood because of how like personal it was and how violent it should have been. Like, that could have done with a bit of colour. But like having a random Daniel Bryan AJ Styles match, no,
not at all.
Obviously, accidents happen.
Yeah. The conversation then would be, does blood actually heighten a match? I look back to some of my favorites, and a lot of them do have blood. I don't. It is a storytelling tool. A lot of the time.
Again, like, like now, if you see someone get busted open, you're like, oh my god, he's been busted open.
Right.
Like, it's because it's such a rare.
Yeah.
Like, it's shocking. But back in the Attitude Era, it was like, oh look, he's been busted open.
Yeah.
We're going back to obviously you saying, and I agree, it's one of the best matches from like the last couple of years, Dustin and Cody. Do you think that match would have been the same without the blood?
It's one of the things where, because wrestling is what it is, you can't have a director's cut of a match. You know, you can't have a Snyder cut. They're not going to go back and make a Snyder cut of that match that is like 4 hours long and there's more blood, because that's just not how it is. Wrestling is flash in the pan. Once it happens, it's happened.
Yeah.
Well, maybe now WWE, they can pre-show, they can pre-tape things. Maybe they do a bloody one and a non-bloody one, but retroactively to say that it would have been worse with no blood, I don't know.
I don't think it would have been worse. I think the blood is the perfect example of that match being heightened because it's the fact that they are blood. They are brothers. And I feel like that's sort of where you get into a bit of the sort of symbolic gesture that these two brothers that are bound by blood are drawing each other's blood in this very physical and brutal match. Right. So I feel like the match would have still been obviously a great one because they're both terrific workers. But I feel like it was the blood that really sort of cemented that match as what it was.
Yeah, I think that's a point. Like, I've got no problem with blood in wrestling, like you said about Bret Hart and Stone Cold, like just that image of Austin bleeding, like that's iconic.
Mm.
But it's like, are you going to have blood in a match for the sake of having blood, or to heighten the match? Because at the time of Austin Bret, like, that was a time where they weren't allowed colour. They weren't allowed to bleed intentionally.
Yeah.
And they campaigned so hard for that. They even got Shawn Michaels to have a word with Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how much they wanted it. And I think they made the right decision. It is just, are you doing it for the sake of it, or are you doing it for a reason?
Well, it's like you said, that image of Austin being in the sharpshooter and that look on his face, that is like one of the most iconic images ever from wrestling. That image probably wouldn't be the same if it didn't have the blood literally leaking down his face through like the pain. Like it would just look like a regular cell in a submission hold. That kind of really cemented, because that match cemented like how much of a badass Austin was, because he never tapped out, he never quit. And then he had to go through all this just to eventually pass out, and that's how he ended up losing the match. So that's kind of an example where it heightens it.
If we take the most recent big example, I would say, is if Becky Lynch didn't get busted up, which was an accident, that we know of, if she didn't get busted up, she probably wouldn't have had that run.
No.
You wouldn't have had that, in the stands, arms up, blood pouring from the face, a visual. If they decided to censor that, you probably wouldn't have had that run.
Yeah.
See, I think a lot of it with the blood thing, it might be done on the fly. Like, because sometimes you see someone get busted open and there's no like referees coming down, trainers coming down, mopping them up. They just get on with it. But most of the time, you get trainers coming down, deciding whether or not you can take
gloves in the back pocket, putting the gloves on, stopping the match. What was the Joe Balor, one of their matches? They stopped.
Yeah,
bleeding quite a lot.
Yeah,
he got his nose busted, and it looked very close to like the match was gonna have to be stopped, because they literally had to stop while the referee was checking on it, even though Joe is a hard bastard and probably wouldn't care, because even if it was broken, he'd want to continue. But that's obviously just the stance WWE has on, I guess, a lot of injuries now, that if someone, back in the day, if it was that you got your nose broken, tough shit, you carry on. Now it's probably the case, if it did happen, they would probably stop the match.
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes, I just need a wee.
Okay.
Back onto censorship, because fuck it, we'll leave this in.
Yeah, why
maybe.
not?
If they got rid of the matches with David Starr, or they got rid of the matches with Devlin or whoever, again, due process. Maybe it shouldn't be taken away. I don't really know what my standpoint is on that. It is like, if 10 people come out and say that this person is an abuser, maybe you should pull the matches before the trial. But then obviously if the trial happens and they are found innocent,
I just like my whole stance is like, even if obviously I think someone like David Starr has more or less been banged to rights because he's kind of admitted it. Like the thing is with a lot of this, I always like to wait until we see what the verdict is. I don't want to just automatically throw everything into one basket, if you like.
True, but I guess you have to put into play there. Like, let's say Devlin. Let's say Devlin thing is still going on.
Yeah.
And the WWE push on us as intended. It's difficult because the world continues. The world of wrestling will continue, and someone could lose a spot because of allegations. Most of the time, they probably deserve to fucking lose the spot. With 10 fucking plus people coming out, and then half the time they never do lose that spot, even if it comes out that it is true anyway. So I don't know. I guess my biggest point is if they did decide to remove matches on the network, you have to look at it like, is the match being there a glorification of that person? In the same way that you would take down statues of Confederate soldiers in America or whatever.
Yeah.
You take up the good with the bad. Let's fuck all your heroes, right? All your heroes are evil. Mahatma Gandhi was a racist. Really didn't like black people. I would not bat an eye if you took down his statues because of that, and if you took down David Starr's matches, I wouldn't bat an eye. I think the conversation to have is not a bad one, to be like, is it good or is it bad? You also have to put into some kind of account.
I just feel like
people, and do these other people get affected by the matches being taken away?
I just feel like in circumstances like this, I agree there should be maybe a better discussion on what the solution should be. I feel like a lot of these things are very gut reaction. So like Progress found out about all this, and obviously they looked pretty bad in the start of it because of the way the original management tried to handle a lot of the things. So maybe that was a bit of a gut check reaction. It's just very surprising that they're getting rid of only this one person, and they've got quite a lot of other people on that service that should be as equally removed.
Right? You keep the matches up. You keep all the matches up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go back. Now we can do this, right? You go back and you deep fake the face or the whole body. You deep fake the entire body with that. When the title is vacant and it's just that like completely like featureless model of a person.
Yeah.
You in every match of someone with those accusations, you put in the featureless model until they're either the case is thrown out or they're found innocent, in which case you put them back, or if they're not, then I don't know, put it up to fan vote. Maybe you replace Osprey, or you replace you put in Osprey, or you put in whoever, or someone, whoever has the least allegations. I think.
No, Garrett. Garrett, you've already said the perfect thing. If it was in the case of Progress, because the character of Vacant is technically part of the canon, because he was in their Rumble match back at Still Chasing, so he's technically canon.
But that's my 2 cents. Use CGI.
I mean, as fun as that would probably be to I just think editing and removing stuff isn't always necessarily the right way to go about it. I think you can kind of keep it there, but maybe have it so it is so people are aware of the person and like what they did. like going back to the whole thing of like maybe even before the match came on or at the start of the show, have that little disclaimer or someone sort of talking about it, saying so and so was implicated in this. We don't condone their actions, but just erasing things from history. Like I think things like statues, they're always going to eventually change and be brought down. And that is kind of like how history will change. But at least people will always know that was once a thing. I think just erasing it, pretending like it didn't happen, isn't really going to help matters.
I don't know.
No, you need to acknowledge your history, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I think it's fine to change things, like because the argument with statues is they're saying you can't pull that down as part of our history. But the thing is that history will always be remembered because it's part of history. Changing a statue isn't too much of a bad thing. That's like just changing the way times are reflective.
It's so not like black and white in any regards. In any
No,
of this, right?
it's very grey.
What a statue is it's a glorification. That's exactly what a statue is. That's why it is there. You know, like you look at Nelson's column. It's a fuck off big column. You know, you can't not look at it and be like, that guy's pretty high up. To have someone's match up is almost, you could almost say it's near like a similar thing, right? I could understand when people say that having their match there is still a glorification of that person, and showcasing their work is still that, even with a warning beforehand. Again, I have no idea what the right thing to do is. When I watched Tom and Jerry as a kid, I didn't realize there was racial coding. I thought that the character, the maid, was the mother because I was a dumb child and I didn't realize that it was a racist depiction of the maid. Because I had no fucking idea.
Yeah, same. It's like it's just a weird thing because it's not just in wrestling you see things like this, like, but then like a lot of industries aren't willing to go back and delete. Like, for example, Kevin Spacey, massive actor, big name, and he's basically got no career now because of things he's done in the past. But you could still easily log on to Netflix or Amazon Prime right now and find a bunch of his movies.
Yeah, I actually watched one recently.
And
I didn't realize he was in it because they didn't advertise that he was.
Yeah,
but obviously not taking away his movies.
And I'm pretty sure you can go on Spotify and still find Lost Prophet songs.
Right.
After what their lead singer did, you know? So it's
one of them things, it's like, let's say you take Chris Benoit and his match with Kurt Angle at the Royal Rumble. Like, I think we'll all agree that is a fucking phenomenal match. So to take that match down, yes, Chris Benoit is a monster for what he did, but Kurt Angle's not.
Yeah.
Same as the majority of people who are in films with Kevin Spacey. Like, you're not just getting rid of Kevin Spacey's art, you're getting rid of all these other people. You're not just getting rid of Chris Benoit's matches, you're getting rid of all these other people. So I suppose the point I'm trying to make is, is removing one person worth removing all these other people?
I think it will always be a case by case basis in a sense, but again, to play the other side, not that I'm sure abusers aren't being searched up by the people they've abused so that they can watch their matches again and again. But even then, even the matches being there could possibly, I can't speak for anyone, but the matches being there and the people still seemingly, even if they've lost a job, right? And like, for example, Joey Ryan isn't employed, I don't believe, by anyone. And people like that aren't, but his matches are still there. People, survivors could perceive that as not having any kind of repercussions for actions. And it could, it could still very well be hurtful that it's there, especially if somehow it slips through the cracks, right? That an intern at WWE goes through a bunch of old footage of a match, right? And because they're like they're making a promo and they're like, oh, this guy hit this move really good on this guy, not paying attention to who it is, but because it's there and it hasn't been deleted or censored or whatever, they then put out a promo package with someone doing a super kick onto an abuser that could possibly still slip through the cracks at some point, and might even, really upset some people, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get what you're saying there. Like, I think it's one of them things of, it might be one of them things of, you have to keep looking. Because WWE never mentioned Chris Benoit, because they don't show any of his matches or anything like that. They just don't mention him. Like, it might be one of them things that in like 10 years, the majority of people working for WWE behind the scenes, well, maybe not 10 years, but like maybe say 20 years, they're not going to know who Chris Benoit is. So I think it's just one of them things you need to keep looking at it. Like, right, where do we stand on this now? Because like with the Tom and Jerry stuff, some things that were acceptable then are not going to be acceptable in the future. It's like there'll be things that we do every day now, things we say, things we do, that we don't bat an eyelid. But when we're in our 50s and 60s, it's going to be deplorable what we've done.
I think this entire episode, Greg, you should just censor yourself.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have just been driving this one. I've just had to sit back and just let you guys go at it.
You just need to turn yourself into like the red and green characters on the Creator Wrestler when you're doing your moveset. Just turn yourself into one of them.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't have an answer. I'm not in a position of power.
Same.
Okay, I think that's like a good way to kind of cap it off, is that we're just this is just us debating what we think and our ideas, and we're not looking to offend anyone. I think we should point that out, as some people are hurt by these comments. This is just 3 different dudes' opinions on what we think, and everything we say isn't like people could easily say something and think we're saying the other thing. It's not the case at all. This is just sort of some ideas we're throwing out and kind of giving a broader discussion to something that isn't really brought up that much. Because I mean, when we were sort of saying that, when was the last time someone really ever talked about censorship in wrestling? It's not brought up as heavily. We just want to kind of have a little bit of discussion and a debate about it, and kind of share our opinions on it, and talk about things like the WWE as a company and how they combat censorship, even though they were quite readily to take the piss out of being censored by having a group called Right to Censored. So it's a bit of a up and down kind of roller coaster, but
it jumps back to profitability. It's probably not profitable for them to. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Vince puts in a group called cancel culture. Because he sees that as profitable at the time, and that's why things do stay up. Because if there was uproar and people boycotted, if he didn't, they'd do. I don't know. I mean, I hope we've tried to look through every viewpoint and see how things being still up or not being censored, or things being censored in different ways could affect different people. At the end of the day, we're just 3 morons that watch wrestling together.
Yeah, that's all it is, and we just love it so much that we like to have these big discussions. We're not looking to take sides, and we're not looking to offend anyone. We just want to debate it, and that's part of the fun, I suppose.
Wrestling is much nicer when the curtain is closed and you can't see behind.
Yeah. I like it.
The boss is a magical man, not a man behind the curtain.
No. Any closing remarks then, lads, on censorship before we wrap things up?
Free to bet.
Greg, you are a fucking cunt, and I hope that you bleep, you absolute piece of shit. Fuck you, fuck you. Censor all of those, if you will.
And because I'm such a pacifist, I love you too, Garrett.
Yeah. Yeah, go fuck yourself.
No, I love you too, man.
Wait.
It's so dis-
They're becoming one.
There you go. Give me half a head. Wait.
It's about.
We are legion, for we are many.
Sorry, audio listeners. On the video, we're half and half. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to find us on the social media, you can find us at the Bearhug Club podcast for Facebook and the YouTube, Bearhug Club Pod on Instagram, and Bearhug Club on Twitter. They're all at the bottom of the screen right there. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Let us know in the comments like where you stand on this kind of thing. What are your thoughts about censorship in wrestling? What did you think about the Royal Rumble? Yeah, and we'll catch you all next week. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Later.